Arizona straight to the line. There's the snap to Murray. Murray looks left, pumps once, looking. A lot of time. Now he throws, and it's intercepted by the Lions. Picked off down the left sideline. Oruwariye picks up a block at the 30, 25, 20, Amani 10, 5, and he's spun out of bounds right there. I see you, 24. I see you.
Welcome to the Twentyman in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. I am Tim Twentyman. You guys all know PJ Clark. And PJ, we're on the road in Indianapolis here. You know, no starters. There was no Amani Oruwariye like there was in the opener there. And look, no Jared Goff. A lot of starters. 32 guys, including starters and injured guys, didn't play today. But it gave, you know, some backups an opportunity to play. Some guys that could play some key roles if injuries happen. You know, some guys that are fighting for roster spots and an opportunity to, you know, maybe catch a coach's eye and be in the conversation when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and everybody sits down and decides who the best 53 guys on this roster are. And, you know, what I guess 27-26 win for the Lions. What's your biggest takeaway from Saturday's win?
I think the biggest takeaway is that it was a win after a slow start, a lot of field goals to start off the game, and then the 2-minute drill to end the first half by David Blough. It was good to see him finish a drive with a touchdown. I think that was much needed by everybody, and I think that set up the momentum. Good run defense, good run offense, good, you know, a tough, gritty game. I think that's the way Dan Campbell wants these Lions to win this year, even though it was the backups.
You know, I think he loved the fact that his football team ran for 175 yards and held a Colts football team that was second in the league in rushing last year, that had the leading running rusher in Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor didn't play, and Nelson, some of those guys up front didn't play, but that's still a system predicated on the run. That's still a tough football team that wants to run the football first. It was still the same system. And to hold those guys to 30 rushing yards, I thought the defensive line played terrific. I thought they were great all week. And then offensively for guys like Evan Brown, Tommy Kramer, you know, Logan Stenberg, and really across the board to open up some of the holes they did. And for guys like Greg Reynolds and Jamar Jefferson and Godwin Igwebuike, I mess that up every time. I'm going to get it eventually. It's only year 2, but those guys,
there's still time.
They were good. And
they were awesome.
And they ran the ball, controlled tempo, controlled the clock. I think Dan Campbell, when he sits down and watches the film of this tonight, he's probably already starting to do it on the plane.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to love how those guys played up front on both ends of the football.
I think this is how he drew it up. I know he said post-game that Ben Johnson was the one calling the plays today, and I think that's another thing, another important note to point out.
Yeah,
that Ben Johnson was in control, and it worked. I mean, there were a lot of field goals. You would like to see, you know, a couple drives stalled out early. That first drive was moving the ball, and once they got to the red zone, a little bit tougher, and there were a lot of reasons for that. I think most of the wide receivers that played today were very small, not a lot of jump ball opportunities in close quarters down there where you have a Josh Reynolds or a DJ Chark. That's what these guys are here for. And, you know, Khalif Raymond is not giving you that same jump ball
Khalil
opportunity.
Pimpleton had an opportunity and couldn't come down with one.
It just, you know, that's a personnel, you know, who you got on the field more than anything else. But I think that Ben Johnson did a very good job effectively calling this game, and it was wildly efficient on the ground.
You know, in the win, which you talked about off the top, why that was so important. We've got a clip of Dan Campbell explaining just why preseason week 2 is important to get a win.
It's very important, and especially with a young team, and just, you know, where we've been, where we're coming from, and, you know, where we began to go at the end of the season, man. It's got to be part of our DNA. It's got to become part of who we are, and we have to embrace every moment and treat it like it's your last moment. And because if you don't and you just kind of accept it, then you'll just be average or above average, and that's not good enough in this league. So that's a step in the right direction. I thought we got better these 2 days, and I thought we got better today. So this has been a good week for us.
You know, and that's important. We got better today. We've gotten better over the week. And look, like you look at Baltimore and how many wins they've won in the preseason. They take that serious, right? I mean, it's a culture thing there, and that's kind of what Dan Campbell's trying to instill too. Is it's the preseason. In the ultimate grand scheme of things, wins and losses don't matter, but they do to him, and they do when you're talking about building the confidence of young players, when you're talking about just building a winning program and a winning atmosphere, that's why Saturday was important to him.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense for what he's been preaching this whole time, is that they are not showing up here, even after a good 2 days of joint practice and a lot of good work, as he's been saying repeatedly. They're not showing up here to go lose a game. They're here to win, no matter who's on the field.
It was an important game for David Blough and Tim Boyle. I think that was one of the things I was really looking at heading into this game. We knew Jared Goff wasn't going to play, so it was going to be the David Blough and Tim Boyle show. And David Blough started, which I think he's earned over the first 2 weeks of camp. I don't know if you would agree or not, but I think he's been probably the more consistent of the two. Not only last week in the preseason game for Atlanta, but the couple of weeks of training camp leading in to this week. And, you know, it was a good performance. You know, I thought, like you mentioned, it was really good for him to get that 2-minute drill at the end. Like, he finished 16 of 22 for 75 yards. So, you know, a lot of short stuff. He did rush for a couple first downs, had 18 yards on 3 attempts. Made one bad decision, and that was throwing high, a little bit high into coverage. Ball flips up in the air. It's picked off, returned to the Lions' 21-yard line, I think it was, or somewhere right around there. Defense does a great job after that.
Great stand.
Allows no yards, forces, you know, a field goal. But, you know, he made the mistake with the fumble last week, and that was one thing Dan Campbell said this week that he wanted to see from those guys is let's not make that big mistake. And so David did make a mistake that led to points. It didn't kill him. They won the game, and I thought that was an important last drive for him. You know, an okay performance. That's how I would say. It was okay to good. Wasn't great, but it was efficient. They scored, I think, 3 of the 5 possessions that he had. They scored 2 field goals and a touchdown. So, look, playing the quarterback position is about moving the football and scoring points, and David Blough did that.
And I think the 2-minute drill is the big takeaway there, is that they had the ball with 1:55 seconds left in the half and had to go down the field and had to put up points. And we hadn't seen him finish a drive yet, and it was really, I think it was imperative for him to get into the end zone there, and they were able to do it.
Just throw it to Tom Kennedy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you may as well at this point.
And then let's go to the second half, because you've got Tim Boyle takes over. He starts the second half, does a great job with that first drive, works them right down the field, and then boom, you know, gets a jump from the Colts defense, identifies it, throws a terrific
dime,
fade
an
route,
absolute
a dime,
dime,
just like the one he threw to Funchess last week.
He's 2 for 2 on fade routes.
He's got that fade route down, and I think both were on opposite ends of the. One was on the left.
Yeah, one was on the left, and today was on the right.
So he's got them both ways covered. And then who makes the catch again? Obviously, Tom Kennedy. What did Dan Campbell have to say about old Tom Kennedy?
I'm going to say something different than I said last time, because I think I said dependable. Is that what I said? Yeah. He's very reliable. He's just reliable. That's all he is. He's reliable.
He is.
It's hard to say anything else at this point.
8 catches for 104 yards last week. Led all NFL receivers after the first week of the preseason. It catches 2 touchdowns this week. And, you know, Tim Boyle certainly loved the first one. And, you know, to finish the point on Tim Boyle, 12 of 15, very efficient, 99 yards, was sacked a couple times, but one of them certainly wasn't his issue. There was a blown block by the right tackle. No turnovers, which
is important,
and 116.4 passer rating. So, you know, I think it was a really good performance by Boyle. 1 touchdown, no interceptions, efficient, 2 scoring drives, including the last one of the game. That was, 9 minutes, 18 plays?
Yeah,
just drove them right down the field. And you know, that's a Dan Campbell drive, Peach.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a tie game, 4th quarter. Let's run the football, control it. I think it took over 9 minutes off the clock.
I think he's setting the tone for the real offensive line. We've talked about it so much, and is that this offensive line is going to be a top 5 unit in the league, and they are going to try to just beat these teams down late in games. Jamal Williams is going to get a lot of carries right up the middle. He's going to
get a lot of fourth. And it was, you know, kudos to Tim Boyle for you know, orchestrating that whole thing, using his legs a little bit.
Yeah, he got out of trouble a couple times.
A couple times he made really good plays to avoid sacks, really good pocket presence there. And so, you know, I thought probably if you're comparing the 2 quarterbacks, I think Boyle's day is probably a little better just because of the 2 touchdown drives, and I think that last drive kind of cements it for me, even though Blough had that terrific 2-minute drive to end the first half. It's really, really close to me. I thought no one really separated themselves.
I don't think anybody's pulled away yet.
No, they have certainly not pulled away, but I guess if I was forced to pick one, I'd say I thought Boyle was maybe a little bit better just because of the 2 touchdown drives, but that's something still that we're going to really have to watch over this next week. And then Pittsburgh's going to be huge. I think that's really going to decide it, and those guys have put themselves in a position where it could really come down to one preseason game that decides who is Jared Goff's backup going into the regular season.
And you can look back last year. I remember David had a really good game in the Pittsburgh preseason game last year. He came in the second half, threw a lot to Tom Kennedy, and impressed there. So maybe the pendulum is just swinging back and forth. But Tom Kennedy will be there. He'll be in Pittsburgh.
We've got to talk. He will be in Pittsburgh, and he's probably going to make a bunch of plays.
Yeah.
He's going to have a touchdown. I'm just going to forecast it right now on the 20-minute
Huddle
podcast because he's going to be there, and that's all he does is make plays, right? And I thought it was really interesting after the game, Peach, when we asked about Tom Kennedy, and obviously you heard the quote there from Coach, but the fact that he was playing gunner and jammer.
Oh, they were trying to get him out there.
And the fact that he is the one who clinched the game by, recovering the onside kick. When you're the 5th and 6th wide receiver on a football team, and that's what Tom Kennedy's trying to be, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You have to be more than just an offensive guy as the 5th, 6th guy. You've got to be able to play special teams. You've got to do some other things because – look, it's going to be Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Reynolds and J-Mo when he gets back. I mean, that's the
you have a
core.
Order.
That's the pecking order.
Your guys.
But those 5, 6 guys, the Quintez Cephas, the Trinity Bensons, the Tom Kennedys, those guys that are fighting for those last spots, they've got to be able to do something else. They've got to be able to do special teams. And Dan's like, this guy won't go away. He just keeps making plays, so we have to find some things that he can do. And I thought it was really good by Tom Kennedy. He got doubled on a gunner roll, which allowed the other guy to have single on the other side and make a play.
Drew a holding call on the opening kickoff of the second half.
There you go.
I didn't have that on my bingo card, but
so it's those little things that I think are stacking up to really help Tom Kennedy. To be honest with you, if it's me right now and I'm in that room and I'm trying to decide the last couple spots, I think it's really hard. I really like Quintez Cephas. Now, we haven't seen him because of the leg injury for a couple weeks, and hopefully, we're going to see.
Came back in practice
this week, which is good. Hopefully, we see a lot of him in Pittsburgh because I think he brings a toughness, a little different dynamic than what they have.
He's more
on
physical than a lot of these guys.
He's an Amon-Ra type, but he's got a little bit more size than Amon-Ra too, and can play outside. So I really like him. And then, is it Tom Kennedy? Is it Trinity Benson? Is it Maurice Alexander?
I was going to say another guy you can throw in the mix.
Maurice Alexander averaged 38 yards per kickoff return here Saturday, and 4 kicks for over 150 yards.
Yeah.
Did some good things. I think caught 3 passes for 18 yards, which wasn't bad either. But amongst those guys, it's like Maurice Alexander can return kicks. Trinity Benson can return kicks in that speed. It plays with.
He's
him.
getting a lot of gunner reps too, as well.
And then there's Tom Kennedy. So I think it'll be really interesting. You've got to be able for that last wide receiver spot, those last few spots, show that you can do something else. And it was good that Tom Kennedy did that because obviously on offense he's shown that he can just make plays.
He gets open.
There.
He gets open. He can throw the ball too.
He can throw the ball.
I don't think we can rule that out.
We don't have the highlight from touchdown pass last year, do we?
No, I don't have that one queued up.
But he can chuck it a little bit too. And I talked to him in the locker room after the game on Saturday, and he said, "Look, I'm just trying to keep that trust.
Yep.
Like it takes so long to earn the trust of a head coach, of a position coach, and you can lose it so quickly." And I thought it was a really good quote by him, just saying, I've got to be that guy that just never loses that trust. Just keep it. And if I have that, I'll be okay. He also said, I will play anything they want me to play, even defense if they need me.
Yeah,
he's just that kind of guy. He's a football player. That's what Tom Kennedy
he's
is.
a football player.
Tom Kennedy's a football player.
And again,
you need guys like that.
we said last week, I think that plays here.
It plays here. The running backs, anything jump out? With the guys kind of battling for the 3-4 spot.
Justin Jackson hasn't played a lot, but aside from the fumble, which was not good, recovered. But he broke off a 19, a 21. He broke off some big ones.
Average 7.7, had 7 carries for 54 yards. And look, a veteran guy, right, who's played
a
in this
lot.
league.
Yeah.
And so, he's a guy I think that's right there with Godwin and with Jefferson, competing for those spots. Now, defensively, let's switch over to that side of the ball. A couple guys that jumped out to me, and a guy who's really been good, Peach, and I know we've talked about this, is Austin Bryant.
Oh,
right?
He was amazing. He was amazing this week, and he was amazing today.
He's been amazing all camp, I think. And look, there's a guy that's really taken advantage of the opportunity. So Romeo Okudah, right, is still rehabbing that torn Achilles. Julian Okudah, what's going on about 2 weeks now, where he's been out of practice with an undisclosed injury. So, that's given a guy like Austin Bryant an opportunity to step in and play with the second unit and the first unit, and that kid's just taken off. He has made
gets to the quarterback
after play after play. We saw it in the joint practices, like you mentioned, and we saw it here Saturday, too. He got a sack. I think he should have got another one.
I think the Kaminsky one should have been him. But
Kaminsky owes him a little bit for steering him right into his arms. But that's been Austin Bryant. When we talked to him on Thursday, and he just says, look, I was hurt. It was a Jeff Okudah situation with him. I think it was almost the same. I think he played 10 games his first 2 years because of injuries. And so, had a sneaky 4.5 sacks last year in 14 games. And look, he's healthy. He loves this even front, being that kind of outside Sam guy on an even front. And he says it fits his game, and boy, he just shows up like every day. Every day in practice speech, I write his name down at least twice.
He's ready to go. He looks like, and you can never have enough of those rotational edges that can just get in there. Don't even necessarily, not that he's a bad run defender, but don't even worry about that. Just go third down pass rusher. Like, you need somebody that can get there. Austin Bryant has proved that.
Cause havoc, right? Cause havoc, and you look at his line, 4 tackles, a sack. He had a tackle for loss. He had a quarterback hit. I mean, that's just the kind of production you're looking for on the edge. And another guy, we mentioned his name, John Kaminsky. I thought he was really good, too. And
I've loved his camp.
He's shown up. He has shown up in camp. Big physical guy, right? I mean, you stand next to him, you're like, man, that's a football player. Like,
that's another guy with openings from Levi and Josh Paschal being hurt that like Austin Bryant has taken advantage of the Aquaras being down. That's another guy. There's interior reps, and John Kaminsky has definitely filled them.
And they've really needed that interior rush, right? I mean, you talk to any quarterback in this league, and they will tell you the most disruptive rush is the rush that comes right up the middle, right in your face. That's why Aaron Donald is the best defensive player to probably ever play the game, because that is such a disruptive rush when it comes right at you. When it's on the outside, you can step up, you can do some things. When it's right at you, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And John Kaminsky showed that a little bit today. They need Levi Onwuzurike to show that. They need Aleem McNeil to show that. They need Michael Brockers to show that. They need to get more juice from the interior. So it was good to see a reserve guy in John Kaminsky. 6 tackles. He had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit. Again, that kind of production is what you want to see, especially when it comes from an interior guy.
Yeah, and I think another interior guy that left with an injury, I didn't see if he ever came back, but Eric Banks had a sack today. I think he looked pretty good. Bruce Hector had a couple good jumps off the ball.
Demetrius Taylor's been a guy I've noted a couple times in training camp.
All of those interior guys today really, I mean, they only allowed 30 rush yards, so they were great in the run game, and then I thought the pass rush was pretty efficient today as well.
It was, and on the outside, Jeff Okudah and Will Harris, I thought that was one battle that I really wanted to see. We knew Amani Oruwariye wasn't going to play, so you were going to see Jeff Okudah and Will Harris, and those two are battling for that number 2 spot opposite Oruwariye. And I thought Jeff really was solid in coverage. They didn't attack him much. They attacked him one time on a third,
and he made the tackle.
On a 3rd and 10 for a short gain, and immediately made the tackle, got off the field. Will gave up a 20-yard catch early. He was playing a little off, and they kind of caught him in a long crosser, and he got into some traffic and was trailing, and just didn't make the play. And then the next play was a 23-yard gain on that side, and I don't know if it was a miscommunication. There was a 23-yard completion there, so a little bit of a rougher start for him. But I think it was great for Jeff Okudah, for Lions fans that want that number 3 overall pick to emerge as the guy they thought they were getting when they picked him number 3. And I thought Thursday, in the joint practices, he was really, really good. I wrote that in the observations that day. I think I even put it in the notebook. He got his hands on a couple balls. He was talking. He was physical.
And he was right on. I think it's important to even note that he was man up against Michael Pittman, who's one of the better receivers in the league. And he was, Pittman got him a couple times, but Jeff got his hand on balls, knocked it out of Pittman's hands. Like he was ready for the challenge.
He was good. He was good, and that's good. And I think ultimately, I mean, there's still another week to go, and there's one more preseason game. But if I were to guess right now, I'd say it's going to be Amani Oriwari and Jeff Okudah.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to watch Jeff. He's only played in 10 games. Obviously, you guys know the history with the core muscle injury and then the Achilles week 1. But, man, that young man has worked really hard to get himself back. He's been humble. He's put his head down. He just wants to work. And I think it's good that now, 2 weeks from the regular season, we're starting to see,
the corner
plays,
turn a little bit.
Turn the corner and get his hands on football, be right there, and be that guy that the Lions hoped he can be as the number 3 pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he had a very rebounded well on Thursday and a very good game today.
Anything else jump out?
I thought Derek Barnes showed up too.
Yeah, he did. A couple great stops in the run. The special team smack right there.
Oh, yeah.
And
big hit on the kickoff.
And that's another guy, Malcolm Rodriguez has gotten so much, talk, and deservedly so. He's been really, really good. Alex Anzalone didn't play Saturday, so you know that where he stands.
Yeah.
Look, he's going to have the green dot. He's the mic. I think they really trust him to kind of call the plays and run that defense. And who's the guy that's going to be next to him? Is it going to be Derek Barnes? Is it going to be Malcolm Rodriguez? Do you trust Malcolm Rodriguez, a 6th-round pick, a rookie, to have that role right away? I think he's certainly earned the right to be in the conversation with the way he's played. And we saw from Hard Knocks and some of the stuff that Calvin Shepard has said, like, can somebody please step up so I don't have to keep, praising the rookie?
And linebacker is such a rotational role that, there doesn't have to be a set player next to Alex. They're going to rotate in back and forth, but you got to know who your 2 guys are, at least at the beginning.
And you have to know what each guy does really, really well. I think Malcolm's kind of an all-around, can do a little bit of all, but you love the size of a Derek Barnes in the run game of Alex Anzalone. So I think you're right, and that's a good point by you. I think we'll see the rotation with those 3 guys, especially.
Because then you can't rule out Chris Board is a coverage guy, and
guy.
That's a guy that you're going to want out there on tight ends or running backs.
And then you have Pittman and Woods and those guys who are really good on special teams, who they're trying to maybe find a reserve role on defense as well. So that'll be really interesting. But one more week for Malcolm Rodriguez and Derek Barnes. I think that'll be an interesting one in Pittsburgh next week to see just kind of who's going to be that guy next to Alex to kind of start, even though, to your point, I think they are going to be rotational guys. It'll be interesting. The kicker battle, it was fun.
It is a battle.
So the first 2 weeks, I don't think Austin Seibert missed a kick.
No, he was lights out.
He was lights out. And then Dan Campbell makes the comment, right?
Yep.
He says, hey, I think Seibert's a little bit ahead right now. He's obviously got a bigger leg. And then I started to see Austin Seibert miss a few kicks here and there in practice and here and there. And, he missed a 55-yarder on Saturday, but 55 yards, I mean, that's you can't kill a kid for that. I mean, that's a tough. I don't know what the percentages are, but certainly once you get over 50, the percentage drops considerably. Yeah. I think he's still got the edge, but is it a little bit closer than it was after the first 2 weeks?
I think the gap is being closed for sure.
And so this will be another interesting week in Lions camp, and then next week in Pittsburgh. I would expect them to do the same thing, give one guy a half, another guy a half, and kind of see where that shakes out. Their numbers in terms of kicking field goals, extra points were very similar last year, excuse me. So I think that one's coming down to the wire too.
Yeah. And that is a battle, and that's going to be important because that guy is going to have to show up every week.
We've got one more week of training camp. We've got one more preseason game. Expect it to be a lot like it was here in Indy next week in Pittsburgh. A lot of the starters sitting, a lot of the backups and stuff as they try to figure out. Then they're going to make cuts down to the initial 53. I say initial because there'll be some moves
Number
after
2
that.
in the waiver order.
There'll be
something's going to be active.
There'll be some moves after that. So it's always an initial 53, and then we get in regular season mode, and that's the fun part. And then we get Philadelphia and all that kind of stuff, and we just get to see how good this football team really is. It's a fun time. Let's get through one more week. Then we get into regular season mode. It'll be fun. We'll have a 20-minute Inside the Huddle podcast this week. Obviously, we'll be in Pittsburgh next week. We'll break it down afterwards. So we'll keep you guys going through right to the regular season. We'll see you guys next week.